said when you watched the film, you were sure there'd be a couple, some things for Brett to need to improve on. What were some of the areas that maybe that you saw that do need to be a little better?
Really don't want to discuss, deficiencies or whatever, but they're things that he needs to get better at, and they were obvious, and he knows them, and he's as hard on himself as anybody. But there were definitely noticeable things that we've got to get better at.
I mean, given the fact that it was his first collegiate start, you kind of maybe anticipate that, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, nobody's perfect, and they weren't detrimental mistakes by any means, but they're things that, obviously we expect, and he's going to get better at. And a lot was made about it being his first collegiate start, which it was, but the guy's been playing quarterback since he was in the 4th grade, so he's started a lot of football games.
The tough, you and Coach Harsin said you like the toughness from him getting up and stuff after the hits, but obviously you probably don't want to see him take those hits. What was kind of your thoughts on some of the shots that he took maybe in the O-line's play in that game?
I thought the O-line played pretty good, actually. 3 of the 4 sacks were on the quarterback, so that's has nothing to do with the offensive line. And hits are part of the game. I mean, hey, I'd like to sit back there and play 7-on-7, but that's not the game. They got good football players, and you got to battle, and you can't hold the ball for too long. One of them, the last touchdown where he took a good shot, they brought one more than we can block. They gave up a touchdown, so they get to pick their poison.
Harsh was kind of saying after the game that you guys, the game plan was to throw the ball more so than try to run it. What did Virginia do that made you guys want to emphasize the pass game a little bit more?
They play man-to-man and try to put an extra guy in the box. I mean, football is actually a lot more simple than probably we give it credit for. But if they put a safety in the box, they outnumber you. So you either got to choose for the running back to either try to run him over, or you got to throw the football. And going into that game, the plan was if they tried to outnumber us in the box, then we were going to throw the ball, and had a lot of success doing it.
Did you see Brett gain confidence or whatnot? Harsin was pointing out that play, the first TD to Thomas Spurbeck, where they're going to continue to press you guys on the outside, and you guys had to take a shot.
Yeah, we had to. That first drive, I thought it was important to get him started early, and so I don't know if you could tell there was a point we were throwing the ball that first drive, and had a couple of big plays happen, and you could just see him like, okay, I can really do this, and I think it was from there on out. We probably got too greedy, tried to take a shot in the first quarter on a 3rd and 1, but that's the mindset. We're not easing into this with a freshman quarterback. He's a quarterback, and he's going to be expected to play like a quarterback in this system is expected to play. So we're not easing into it. He was by no means perfect. There's some things that he's got to get a lot better at for this offense to be as dynamic as it needs to be. But it is what it is. We're going to keep working, and he's going to keep working.
Did you make any concessions to it being his first start? I mean, did you limit anything, or did you kind of go out there with the same plan you would have had otherwise?
No, I didn't. We didn't. We went in there and game plan like we're going to game plan for whoever played quarterback for us. I mean, Ryan actually runs a little bit better than anybody else in that room. So there was probably some stuff in the quarterback run game that we may have been able to get to, but we still called, quarterback runs and read stuff, and he did it. He's got to get better at it.
When you say 3 of the sacks were on the quarterback, just a case of holding on to the ball too long, or what kind of happened in those scenarios? And how
one of them was 3rd and 1, and we had a shot play dialed up. Protection was fine. They covered it. He's got to either throw it away or decide right immediately to try to run for the first down. He did neither. There was a naked for Tommy, a guy coming off the edge. Brett did it earlier in the game, actually about 3 plays before. A guy came off the edge and he threw it away. So that's 2. The third one was 4th down in the 3rd quarter. It was going that way from the press box side, and he was hot. That means that's the guy that he's got to be aware of, and he has to get rid of the football. I put him in a bind with a play call, so part of it was on me too. And then he's just got to find a way to get us out of it, and he can't he can't not know who his hot is and not hold on to the football. And then there was one in the first quarter that we got beat up front, and that stuff happens. But for the most part, for us, that quarterback's got to do a better job.
You talked about last week, too many times you guys were giving up sacks where you shouldn't have. Did you see improvement then? And it sounds like only one that was something that got through the offensive line you weren't expecting to get through.
Mm-hmm.
Was it better last week?
Yeah, it was better. Obviously we're not perfect, and we're not where we need to be consistency-wise, but we scored a lot of points. We drove the ball a lot. It's a cat and mouse game when you play against defenses. They're going to get you, and you're going to get them. We got them. So, and we weren't great on third downs. Bill Walsh says that measure a great offense isn't their third down statistics, it's their ability to stay out of third downs. And so on our touchdown drives, we weren't in third downs, and that's when we're clicking, And so we've got to be better on third downs. I mean, that was the most disappointing thing, because we could have scored a lot more. We could have scored a lot more if we had any type of third down conversions.
Talking about Hawaii, what do they do defensively? What do they do well defensively? And what kind of schemes are you going to see?
They're multiple 3-4 defense. Closest comparisons, BYU, as far as their scheme. They blitz the quarterback. That's what they do really well. Play good coverage in the secondary. They've held Wisconsin and Ohio State to 14 points both in the first half. They're a very tough opponent, especially for a quarterback who hasn't seen all the looks. So it's going to be an important week of preparation. We got to give them all the looks we can this week. But they're very sound as far as knowing who they are and what they want to accomplish. They take big risks, and they usually pay off. They held a Colorado team in check for most of the game. I think they ended up scoring 20 points, but it was hard fought. Now,
you mentioned the running game. It seemed like Marcus Henry was saying there were a couple of close plays that they felt like you were really close to busting. You mentioned them keeping the extra guy in there with the safety, but running game wise, did you feel like you were close to breaking some more?
Yeah, the running game stats are skewed too, because every sack yard you give up takes away from your rushing. It should really take away from your passing. But we had over 100 yards rushing, and you're trying to get to 150. That's really kind of the magic mark. And I don't know how close we would have been if we don't give up. I thought we had 46 yards or something like that giving up sacks. So those numbers are skewed just a little bit. But yeah, we got to be better in the run game. We all know it. We all know it. So we got to continue to focus on it. And yeah, a part of it was they didn't quite give us the looks that we were expecting or wanting for the run game. And then the other thing is we were throwing the ball early and often, and to get into a run game rhythm, you got to call it. You got to let the offensive line settle in and figure it out, and the tailback settle in and figure it out. And to be honest, I wasn't being that patient. We were trying to move the ball and throw it, and so that's what we did.
And Harsin said a lot of your short passes are almost like runs. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in our system that allows us to either hand the ball off or throw it, and there was some stuff there that, there's a lot of stuff there that could easily count as rush yards. It's just easier to throw it out there for 5 than it is to try to block 7 guys.
How does your non-conference schedule get you ready for conference play here on out?
Well, hopefully you got a lot of your mistakes out of your system, and hopefully you've figured out who you are and kind of what your strengths are and where you're at and what you're kind of building towards. For us, we played 3 really, really good opponents. Played a solid 1AA team, I believed, but we played really, 3 Power 5 teams, and played, 1, 2 of them, and played the other one pretty tight. So we hope it prepared us. We hope we saw some really good competition and have confidence in who we are. But now it's time to prove, who we are against Hawaii. And, you know, we treated last week and all that like it was the final non-conference game, and now we're back to our process. We're back to our 1-0 mentality, and there's nothing more important to us than playing Hawaii Saturday night. And so that's the focus now.
You've talked a number of times about balance on offense and involving a lot of guys, and it seems like that's what happened in the passing game. At Virginia, the tight ends were pretty involved as well, and then also just the second effort that a lot of those guys had after the catch.
Well, I mean, again, it shows up in our offense that there's a lot of different people going to touch the football, and there's a lot of dynamic guys in our offense that can do a lot of things with it. I don't know off the top of my head who all touched it. I'm sure people will be upset about that, but I know there's a lot of different people got an opportunity, you know, to touch the football, and a lot of them did some really good things with it. And our playmakers continue to show out. And like you said, there's a lot of people who are making yards after contact, and that's important, you know. We had several 5-yard throws that end up to explosive pass plays just because people either broke tackles or turned up the field. You know, Coach Adams does a vertical cut drill with our guys all the time, and, you know, just it shows up in our footage. It shows up in our stuff. So that's a tribute to Coach Adams and his focus on that.
Was that the best second effort performance that you guys have kind of seen this year? And I know that probably game plan kind of, you know, will help judge that too at times, but.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah, I mean, obviously that was probably our best offensive performance, you know, to speak of. You could say Idaho, but I would argue that this was our best offensive performance, and by no means were we satisfied. I don't think any player here would tell you that we were real happy in the film room on yesterday, but it was pretty good. You know, it still lacks consistency, but we're going to continue to push and prod until we get there. It was encouraging that it happened on week 4 and not week 9 or 10. So now the goal is to take what you learned and this week be better, and that's going to be tough because this is a totally different defense and it's a totally new challenge. You know, you kind of knew where Virginia was going to line up and how they were going to play. It was just a matter of whether or not your guys were going to get it done being better than them. Here, you don't know where they're going to line up or where they're coming from. Now it's just going to be a matter of recognizing it and find your answers.
So is that the key to winning? Recognizing what you're in? To move the ball against these guys, what are you going to have to do?
Well, to move the ball consistently, you're going to have to be able to establish a run game. I mean, there's no doubt about that. You got to be able to run the ball, and yeah, you got to be able to recognize what they're trying to do and go through your progressions and find the open man. You're not going to be able to say this guy's going to be open on this play. You're just going to have to progress it, and whoever comes open comes open. But the key to moving the football against this team is going to be being able to run the ball consistently. You know, otherwise you're going to be behind the chains, and when you're behind the chains, you're going to get all kinds of crazy blitzes, which is not exactly our forte right now.
What have you seen out of Jeremy McNichols in the red zone that's got him in the end zone so much?
2 more guys.
He just is good with the ball in his hands. You know, I don't necessarily know if it's one thing or the other. Did y'all ask Mike these questions when Jay scored all the time? Because I felt like Jay scored a lot last year too.
Sure
you know,
did,
but
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I would just say that he's a product of we're calling plays, and he does a great job of getting in the end zone. He's got a nose for the end zone. It's not. We're not trying to scheme it up that, oh, hey, Jeremy McNichols is going to get these touchdowns. Quite frankly, I'm just calling plays. I've called red zone plays. There was a couple that I thought other people would actually score on. They didn't, and so he just got a benefit.
Why he's been so effective down there and getting
yeah,
in the end zone.
Nose for the end zone. Because he's a dynamic player. That's why. Because he's a really good football player, and he's somebody you can count on. He's trustworthy with the ball in his hands. He's got an ability to make the first person miss. He's worked extremely hard this offseason to be that guy. But yeah, I don't know.
How different do you think the weight that he added has affected his game and whether it be speed or physicality?
He's pretty powerful. Yeah, he's pretty powerful. There's a couple of stiff arms he had in the game that were wow, you know, and he still got explosive speed. That first 3rd and 1 that he broke out and he eliminated an angle by the safety, who's a really good player. So, I mean, it helps him. I mean, obviously, the first touchdown run too he ran through linebackers that were converging on him. So he's tough. He's strong. And he's still got his speed.
You see, Thomas Burbick makes an impact when he's away from the ball. I know that's what you guys kind of want, but what's his most impressive attribute? Would you say?
Thomas's probably most impressive attribute is his football savvy. It's not, he doesn't blow you away with his athleticism or his speed or his ability, but he has the knack for finding a way to get open. He knows exactly what to do when the ball's in his hands. You trust him on all of our, little gadgets that he ends up with the ball in his hands. He knows exactly how to line up to cause a defender to be in the wrong alignment so he can get open. He knows how to, come in and take 2 for 1 on a block on a safety. He's got football smarts. He's the type of guy that you can give him a rep and he remembers it. And there's all kinds of things about him that make him a good football player. And the other attribute is he wants to be great. He really does. He works hard. He understands he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he knows he needs to continue to work to get better. And there's a lot of people that doubt him and a lot of people that try to play press man against him. And he showed him that can't always do that either. So I think that's his biggest thing. He's got a knack for knowing exactly how to get open and how to play the game.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, guys.
I was playing the first quarter when
Go on, grab myself.